French President Emmanuel Macron lit a fuse in Paris earlier today after announcing a host of new economic reforms. Tens of thousands of students, teachers, nurses and public sector workers took to the streets to voice their discontent. Between 140 and 180 demonstrations broke out across the country today before scenes of peaceful protest escalated into brutal clashes with the police. In capital, masked and hooded protesters were photographed pelting armored police officers with makeshift projectiles. Police responded by battering the protesters with blasts from water cannons and treating them to choking tear gas. The protests today publicly denounced Mr. Macron cutting back on retirement benefits, while overhauling unemployment insurance and going after indebted state-controlled rail operator SNCF. Many of those on the streets were heard chanting, "Together, let's derail Macron." A 65-year-old pensioner and former SNCF worker caught in today's rally said, "We're here against the government, which is only helping the rich. What this government is doing is simply not okay." Services up and down the country were shut down today by workers heading out into the streets to protest the president's reforms. Didier Samba, a commuter who missed his daily train to Paris today, described the scenes a real mess. According to French unionists, at least 1 in 4 schools were on strike today. The Paris protests were expected to culminate tonight at the Bastille Monument, where unionists said as many as 25,000 people will rally. AFP/Getty Paris protests. Scenes of chaos erupted on the streets of France today. Paris protests. Police responded to the violent rallies with water cannons and tear gas. The protests have been described a warning shot against the government. A young Parisian was pictured today with a sign reading "Macron killed me" and the word "me" written across his bare chest. What this government is doing is simply not okay. French protester elsewhere. Protesters aided the chaos and confusion by setting of flares or cordoning off streets with makeshift barricades. Local reports suggest the Greater Paris region of Île-de-France suffered the worst, with severe disruptions to train services. Violent clashes also broke out in the western city of Nantes. At Paris protests, services up and down the country suffered due to the strikes. At Paris protests, unionists rallied against Mr. Macron's economic reforms. Further chaos across France is expected as unionists exert more pressure on the Macron government to back down. Protests are likely to have an impact on hospitals, schools and airports. Around 30% of flights were cancelled at Orly, Charles de Gaulle and Beauvais airports, forcing airline Ryanair to intervene. The flight operator said today, Ryanair call on the French government and European Commission to take immediate action to prevent the skies over Europe being closed yet again.